the Chicago Bears draft a quarterback in this year's NFL draft. Let's talk about it. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL. And here to talk about this topic in regards to the Chicago Bears. So if you're new to the channel and you are a Bears fan, make sure to go ahead and subscribe, folks. I do talk a lot of NFL, a lot of Bears on this channel. Make sure you're following me on all my social media platforms. Hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. Let's get into it. All right, so this is a very important question that's come up a lot ever since the season ended for the Bears. And going into the offseason, right, before free agency, this was a pressing question as well. A lot of you guys reached out to me, asked me this question as well. And I have given thoughts on this question previously, but let me go ahead and revisit it again and let you guys know if my opinion on it has changed. So, question being, of course, will the Bears draft a quarterback in this year's NFL draft? Now, let's preface that before we even talk about the answer to, well, the options that were the non-draft options were free agency and trade. Well, what happened? Let's take a look. In free agency, of course, the Bears signed Andy Dalton. We know that. What a disaster of a signing. I believe it wasn't a good signing. I know there's some Bears fans out there that feel like, Andy Dalton was not a bad signing. Anytime you have to say not bad, you're basically saying it's the opposite of good, right? You get my point, right? You're trying to, make it seem like it's all, no, it's not. It's Andy Dalton, okay? Let's be honest with you. So they signed Andy Dalton in free agency for 1 year, $10 million, okay? So the free agency pool, again, I'll defend the Bears here in one aspect. The free agency pool was trash. I've told you guys this before, right? It was awful. There were no good NFL starting caliber quarterbacks in free agency, like literally none. After Dak Prescott agreed to an extension, which everybody expected he would with the Cowboys, there was no starting quarterbacks left in NFL free agency, at least good ones. Then the trade market, which was a very hot topic, right? It was the two big names. It was one big name, and then it became two in Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, right? What happened? Deshaun Watson obviously requested a trade, and he wanted out. He still wants out. And you had all these teams lining up. And the issue with the Bears was always that compensation-wise, you just couldn't match up to a team like the Jets, like the Dolphins, teams with higher draft picks, quarterbacks to give back to the Texans. And then the Russell Wilson trade rumors came up because he mentioned the Bears actually in his list of teams. And the Bears actually made an offer for Russell Wilson, including giving them 3 first-round picks. Seattle declined, and so the Bears were kind of left to stand pat and just kind of wait on if Seattle is going to trade Russell Wilson or not. So essentially, I mention all that to say in the other options of, free agency and trade, looks like they have, for the most part, evaporated. Now, there's still a chance, obviously, that Seattle comes back and says, hey, we want to trade Russell Wilson. We'll take your offer. But now even with Deshaun Watson, we've got all those allegations against him. Folks, we've had, players in the NFL that, weren't even charged criminally or in court, and they've been suspended. So is Deshaun Watson even going to be eligible to play if you trade for him? So right now it looks like teams are pausing on that as well, like not trading for Deshaun Watson. So unless, right, the Deshaun Watson situation just clears up, and the Texans are ready to trade him. Haven't even mentioned that Texans weren't even trading him. And the Seattle Seahawks want to trade him. It looks like that option's evaporated. So before, the theory was, okay, the Bears are not going to draft a quarterback because we've got trade, free agency, and Ryan Pace is going into a year that is his last and final year. He's going to go all in. He's going to go with the veteran quarterback. Well, it looks like he did go with the veteran quarterback, but is this actually his last year? And I've been kind of alluding to you guys that I believe Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy have gotten extensions under the table, and we just don't know about it. Because when you sign Andy Dalton for 1 year and you're willing to literally tie up your last year in Andy Dalton, that's a problem. And you might say, again, Faiz, who else was out there in free agency? And you just mentioned those trading options on Watson and Wilson. It's not going to happen because those teams weren't willing to compromise. Well, I've mentioned this before. I think tying yourself to trading for Sam Darnold would have been better. Trading for Gardner Minshew would have been better. A Teddy Bridgewater. Don't tell me there weren't guys out there that you could have traded for that weren't Wilson or Watson. All right? So the fact that he decided to tie himself to Andy Dalton tells you that I don't think that's the last of it. Which means what? If you're a GM that does not have only 1 year left, you have multiple years left, that means you're going to draft a guy. So, for instance, now, if you do have an extension, you can go ahead and take a guy in the draft. And so I believe before I was very much in disagreement and saying, I don't believe they're going to take a quarterback because Ryan Pace is not going to tie himself to a rookie quarterback in his last year, to now, I believe they will probably take a quarterback. All right, the Bears have the 20th overall pick, and I believe the plan for Ryan Pace is going to be the same plan he had when he first became the GM of the Bears, which was let's draft and let's have a veteran, which was Glennon and Trubisky at that point. Remember that when we gave that big contract to Mike Glennon and then drafted Mitchell Trubisky? Only this time around, we don't have the number 2 overall pick or the 3, and then he traded up to 2. We don't have that. We have the number 20th overall pick. So let's take a look at the quarterbacks on the board here, all right? These are the quarterbacks that are expected to, be first-round quarterbacks. Actually, I shouldn't include Kyle Trask in here. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, but certainly the first 5, okay? And Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones. Now, I will say to you right now, Trevor Lawrence is going number 1 overall. There's no doubt about it. We don't need to discuss it. Zach Wilson projected to go number 2, but certainly top 5. Justin Fields, I'm going to say top 5, top 10. All right? Trey Lance, top 10. And then Mac Jones, probably top 20. So Mac Jones is really the only guy, him, and then after that, I just put Kyle Trask here, but you'll get my point. Mac Jones is really the only guy that you have a shot at if you stay at 20. Now, Mac Jones out of Alabama, again, a lot of people, love him. A lot of people hate him. He's a pocket passer, isn't really very mobile, complete opposite of kind of what Mitchell Trubisky was, though you could say that's a good thing. But again, Mac Jones, ceiling-wise, there's questions, right? He was surrounded by so much talent at Alabama. He's not going to be surrounded by that in the NFL, especially on the Bears. So can you win when you don't have an all-star at every freaking position, an all-pro and a Pro Bowl type of talent? So that's the question with Mac Jones. But I believe, to answer the question of will the Bears draft a quarterback, I believe they will. Now, whether or not that's going to be Mac Jones or that's going to be somebody later on, like a Kyle Trask, or there's quarterbacks, obviously, you can draft in later rounds, I believe that Ryan Pace will draft a guy. Because here's the thing that I keep coming back to. If you can't get the home run in Wilson and Watson, what's the next biggest home run you can hit? Hitting on a rookie quarterback, right? Now, again, when you don't have a top 5, top 10 pick, it becomes very, very hard. But again, funny enough, Mahomes and Watson were not top 10 picks, or they weren't top 5 picks, certainly. And you can get them in the later parts of the draft in the first round. Now, there are still first-round draft picks, but point being is that is the only other way to hit a home run. So maybe Ryan Pace is thinking, I hit a home run here, drafting a rookie quarterback. Maybe it's Mac Jones. Maybe he trades up, Trey Lance, and he says, that might buy me more job security if the guy that I drafted has a Justin Herbert type of season, right? But again, this is Ryan Pace. This is the guy who's missed on quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. He just does not know the position. Why should we think he's going to get it right this time? You just don't. So I'm not saying to you guys that Ryan Pace is going to get it right this time. I don't think he will. Certainly, he hasn't shown a track record of it. I don't know why anybody would believe that. But what I'm telling you guys is Ryan Pace is thinking if the Russell Wilson trade does not happen, or the Deshaun Watson trade does not happen, my only home run to keep this job, unless there's an under-the-table signing, is to draft a quarterback. So I believe the Bears will end up drafting quarterback. That's just how I feel like things are setting up right now. Again, it could be crazy, but let me know what you guys think. I just can't imagine Andy Dalton being the only quarterback move for the Bears unless another trade is coming for, again, like I said, a big-time quarterback. But seems unlikely. They're probably going to draft a quarterback. So let me know down below. As always, thanks for watching.